This video, we are going to rank every spirit in the game. And let's see which is the best spirit and for your best unit. As you'll know, spirits is one of the attributes that they recently added to the units, which makes it stronger. These are the chances that you can get, and you can summon it using the spirit orb, which I have here. Just click your unit and then find which unit you want to summon. And then you will have these chances as I've mentioned before. Alright, so we have here now our tier list. And first we can have is the Golden Spirit. Golden Spirit will give you a 20% increase of money. And this is best for your farms, such as the Bloomer, Pink Rockstar, and also the Pink Witch. And for the Golden Spirit, I would like to put it in the S tier. It is because it is the best for your farm. You don't want to give your farm like, is it for example, Earth Spirit, which, you know, would give you a stun. No, you don't want that. And every farm unit must have this Golden Spirit. It's just, you know, it will give you a huge advantage. And that's why I will put it in the S tier. And for the Arcane Spirit, we have here that when you are attacking, you will ignore the shields. And for this, I would like to put it in B tier. It's not that useful. Maybe if you get this, if you have like few spirit orbs, maybe you can keep it. But it's not that really useful. I've used it before, which is best fit for a muscular because, you know, level 1 muscular will have a single attack. And it will be a challenge if the mobs will have multiple shields. And by this Arcane Spirit, it will enable you to directly hit to the HP, which is of course very helpful. But the compatibility of this Arcane Spirit is really limited to which of, but for its tier, it will go into B tier. Next is the Crimson Spirit. Crimson Spirit will give an increase of burn and bleed. Now I'll put this in A tier. It is because most of the meta right now includes burn or bleed. And this will be very compatible with the Flame Dragon King or Flame Dragon God, or you can have a Sukuna of this, of, you know, that will have a bleed, okay? And the next one is the Galactic Spirit. This spirit will give you a 20% critical chance. And it will also increase your range by 5% and cooldown reduces for 5%. Now I'm gonna put this in the A tier. It's because of this general buff. And they said that it is best for those that has crit, especially we have the Cursed Berserker Knight, which already have a 40% crit, and plus this, you will have a 60% crit for the Cursed Berserker Knight. So yeah, it will go in A tier. And next we have here is the Dark Spirit. Dark Spirit, I will put it in the D tier. It's because it may increase your range up to 30%, but it reduces also your damage by 30%. Yeah, reduce cooldown, it will increase your range and reduces your cooldown by 15, but you don't want that 30% damage of, you know, it will decrease for 30%. And I don't really think that is worth it in exchange for a range and a cooldown. You can fill it out with your Pink Rockstar, which, you know, gives 30% of buff, but that isn't permanent, so it means that without the buff, it will have a 30% debuff of damage decrease, which is, you know, not that good in exchange for range and cooldown. And the next we have here is the Ice Spirit. Ice Spirit will increase the slow and stun duration. I will put this in the S tier. It is because it is best fit for those stunner, which is support, just like the Golden Spirit, which is best for the farmer. This is best for stunner and slower. We have the new meta, which is the Ice Dragon Queen. Also, you can use it for the Donut Warrior or Master, which is very good for that kind of unit. And the next is the Fire Spirit. Fire Spirit enables you to have your 6th attack applies burn, which deals 60% of your damage. And I'm gonna put this for B tier. It's because 6th attack is way too long, and it is not worth it to wait for those 60%. And maybe this will go in A tier if they will buff this, because, you know, it will give your unit an instant burn effect. Maybe they will buff for 3rd attack or so, something like that. But for 6th attack, it is not worth it to wait, especially if your unit has a long cooldown. The next we have here is the Crystal Spirit. Crystal Spirit deals a 50% to bosses. Now, I want to put this in the A tier. The reason for that, because most of the unit and also most of the modes will have you struggling in the boss battle. By this Crystal Spirit, it will enable you to have more damage to boss, which is a very huge buff to your unit. especially if you have like 10k of damage, and then on the more normal mobs there is no problem, but when it comes to boss you struggle. If you have this crystal spirit, it will add another 5k, which is a 50% of 10k. That's why it belongs to the A tier. Now for the Earth Spirit will enable you to stun the enemy surrounding. Let's say for example you have a huge amount of area of effect, and then every 30 seconds it will stun for 4 seconds and the enemy. But I'm gonna put it on C tier. It is because it's not worth it to put this. If you have like an attack unit, you rather have other spirits compared to this Earth Spirit, because 30% is way too long for a cooldown. And if you also put this in something that is not attacking, let's say for example we have a pink rock star, just like before, I've got this in my pink rock star. Though it's stunned, but it is not worth it. I'd rather have a golden spirit in my pink rock star, which has a way higher chance to get. And for the sacred spirit, it deals 30% more damage when no other units are within range. Now I'm gonna put this on B tier. The reason for that, because every mode you play, there is a 90% that you will have other units within its range. Let's say for example we have the solar portals, or maybe you're doing some raids or something like that. Especially if you have some buffs, you want those things within the range, I mean all of the units, and then this 30% damage will not be applied. So this is like a very situational use, and that will also result in a longer time duration if you are placing your unit not so near with each other, because 90% of the time we usually have each unit within its range. So yeah, this won't be that useful. It is only situational. And the light spirit is the next, which reduces the placement on the upgrade cost of the unit by 15%. Now for this, I'm gonna put this in the B tier, because light spirit has a general application of all the units. Let's say for example you have a bloomer, then you will put this. It might be beneficial, but still it's best to have a golden spirit. Maybe you have the stand or slow like the ice dragon queen. It might be useful because, you know, it costs a lot, and then 15% is quite huge for the discount. But again, you might want to get the ice spirit for that. And maybe you have some attack unit that is very expensive that you just want to place. But, you know, if you have this, it's okay. But again, it is best to get something like a better spirit for it. Let's say, for example, a galactic spirit or crystal or something like that. For the mirror spirit, we have the 5th attack and the units enters a frenzy. This thing is like a storm spirit, which will be the next one. I'm gonna put this on the B tier. It is because the 5th attack is once again too long to wait, and 8 seconds is not worth it. Okay, so you will have a 35% of cooldown reduction for 8 seconds, and it has a 15% cooldown. Let's say for example your unit attack every 5 seconds, so it means that every 30 seconds it will have this 30%. It's because it has a cooldown also that is a 15-second cooldown. Unlike we have here the burn or the fire spirit that doesn't have a cooldown. It only requires 6 attack. Here it requires 5th attack and has a cooldown of 15%. That's why it belongs to the B tier. And the next one is the Storm Spirit. Storm Spirit decreases the unit's cooldown. This is okay, but it doesn't belong to the S tier. It's because you can have this, but still you might want to get other spirits. But 25% is a best cooldown we have here. And if you will pair this with your Sonic trait, you will have a very big reduced cooldown for your unit, just like my Cursed Berserker, which has a Sonic trait and also it has a Storm Spirit. And the next one is the True Spirit. True Spirit is the rarest of all, and it enables you to have an additional 5% of damage in each enemy unit within your range. And then we will put this in the top S tier. It's because it is the best of the best in every attack unit. Take note, every attack unit. If you have this in your farm unit, Bloomer, Pink Rockstar, Pink Witch, it is not worth it. You must reroll. So you must have this in your attack unit. It's because in every enemy within its range, it will have an additional 5% of damage, and it will increase up to 75%. That means that if you deal with 100,000 of damage, let's say you have an Almighty, and then it will have a lot of unit within its range, especially if it has a lot of range, then the damage will go up to 175,000, which is a very huge gap. And that's a very huge gap of additional damage from 100 to 175. And you must have that, okay? But this is very rare. I don't know if you have this. If you have, comment in the comment section below. The next is, which is the second to the last rarest, which is the Divine Spirit, which is also one of my favorite. Your unit will be able to inflict a confusion, so it will go back on the lanes. If you've noticed that some of the raids, maybe you done portal or you have with friends, and then sometimes you've noticed that the enemy is going back in the lane, the reason of that is the Divine Spirit, which confuse the enemy for every 30 seconds, causing them to walk backwards. So instead of going outside the portal, they will go back inside the portal where they came from. So that is very OP. The next one is the Enchanted Spirit. Enchanted Spirit, well, it enables you to be like the pro gamer, which, you know, summons a unit, but it only has 10%. Well, I'd like to put this in S tier, but, you know, because of the 10%, I will put it in the top A tier. It's because 10% is very low chance, and it only has a 25% of the original HP of the enemy mob. I've experienced this kind of spirit, but you know, we've changed it. It is because it is not that practical, especially if you are doing with friends. Because aside from the 10% requirements of it to summon a fallen enemy, and it has a 25% original HP, you need also to kill the unit, right? So if you can't kill the unit, let's say for example you have stronger friends, this will not be that useful. Especially if you're doing some boss, maybe only one boss left, and you know, you're not that AoE. Unless you are top 1 of the damage, maybe you can have the full potential of this Enchanted Spirit. But it's not that very useful. I'd say that it is a general type of spirit when it comes to all of the units in Anime Defenders. So yeah, that is the tier list that we've done with the spirit here. We have True Spirit, Divine Spirit, Golden Spirit, and Ice Spirit, which is the S tier. And we have the Enchanted here, which is the A. Storm, Crimson Spirit, Galactic Spirit, Crystal, and Arcane Spirit, Fire Spirit, Sacred Spirit, Mirror, and Light for the B. And C tier for the Earth and Dark, which is you don't want to decrease your damage, is in D tier. So just take note, guys, that in every spirit there is a compatibility on each unit. Let's say for example we have the Golden Spirit, which is in 8.5% to get. If you will put this in an attack unit, it will be useless, okay? And also we have the Fire and Bleed. If you will put this not on the unit that doesn't inflict the burn or bleed, it will be useless also. Okay, so I think that is all in this video. I hope that you learned something. If you did, leave a like. If you're new, click the subscribe button here because so that you won't miss and upload. This is Tuki. Thanks for watching. See you next week.